Have you ever wondered what stirs in the depths of a man's soul when a woman steps fully into her own power, radiant and untouchable, like a goddess who no longer seeks his gaze? It's a quiet storm, a collision of unspoken desires and fractured egos, where the masculine unconscious trembles before the divine feminine. Carl Jung spoke of the anima, that sacred feminine archetype dwelling within every man, a mirror of his deepest yearnings, his unhealed wounds and his silent fears. When a woman embodies this archetype, not as a projection of his fantasy but as her own sovereign truth, something primal shifts. The man's ego, so accustomed to control, to being the sun around which her orbit spins, begins to unravel. This is not a story of conquest or seduction, but of the dangerous alchemy of attraction, where her detachment becomes his obsession, and her spiritual femininity becomes a fire he cannot grasp. Picture a woman who has walked through the shadow of her own regrets, who has faced the mirror of her soul and chosen to heal. She has done the work, Jung's individuation, the painful integration of her light and dark. She no longer clings to external validation, no longer molds herself to fit the contours of a man's expectations. Her silence is not absence, it is presence, a deep well of self-knowing that radiates like moonlight on still water. She moves through the world with a quiet intensity, her energy a blend of stoic detachment and feminine mystery. She is not cold, but she is no longer tethered to the need to be seen. This is the woman who becomes a goddess, not in the way of myth, but in the way of truth. And it is this truth that unsettles the masculine psyche, for it forces a man to confront the parts of himself he has long ignored. Jung taught that the ego is a fragile construct, a mask worn to navigate the chaos of existence. For a man, this mask often thrives on the illusion of control over his emotions, his desires, and the women who stir them. When a woman steps into her goddess energy, she disrupts this illusion. Her refusal to chase, to beg for attention, or to diminish her light for his comfort is a silent rebellion against his ego's dominion. In her presence, he feels the weight of his own shadow, the unacknowledged insecurities, the fears of inadequacy, the longing for a connection he cannot fully articulate. Her detachment is not cruelty. It is a mirror reflecting back to him the work he has yet to do. And yet this mirror is intoxicating. Her silence, her self-possession, becomes a riddle he cannot solve, a flame he cannot hold. He is drawn to her not because she gives herself freely, but because she does not. Consider the stoic wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The woman who has embraced this truth wields a power that is both magnetic and untouchable. She has learned to govern her own soul, to find peace in her solitude, to let go of the need to control how she is perceived. This is the essence of spiritual femininity, not a performance of softness or seduction, but a deep-rooted strength that flows from self-acceptance. She is the ocean, vast and unyielding, and he is the sailor who longs to navigate her depths but fears he may drown. Her mystery lies not in what she hides, but in what she no longer needs to prove. This dynamic is where attraction becomes dangerous, not in the sense of harm, but in the sense of transformation. Jung's concept of the shadow reminds us that what we desire most is often what we fear to face. For a man, the goddess within a woman is both a beacon and a warning. He is drawn to her light, but it illuminates his own darkness. Her refusal to shrink for his ego forces him to confront his own projections, his own unhealed wounds. He may chase her, not out of love, but out of a need to conquer the mystery she represents. Yet, the more he pursues, the more he realizes she is not a prize to be won, but a force to be reckoned with. Her power lies in her ability to walk away, to choose herself, to embody a love that begins within. This is the silent obsession, a man's ego caught in the orbit of a woman who no longer orbits him. It is the tension between desire and detachment, between the masculine need to possess and the feminine power to exist. And it is here, in this unspoken dance, that the true alchemy of attraction begins. The dance between a man's ego and a woman's goddess energy is not a simple waltz. It is a tempest, a collision of forces that neither can fully control. When a woman steps into her spiritual femininity, she becomes a paradox, both deeply present and impossibly distant, a flame that warms but cannot be grasped. Her silence, her refusal to bend to the weight of his expectations, is not a rejection but a revelation. It unveils the fragility of his ego, that carefully constructed fortress built to shield him from the chaos of his own unexamined daisy. Rays, Jung spoke of the anima as a bridge to the unconscious, a guide to the depths of the soul. Yet, when a woman embodies this archetype not as his muse but as her own sovereign truth, she becomes a mirror he cannot turn away from. Her power is not in what she gives, but in what she withholds, not out of malice, but out of a profound self-knowing that requires no external validation. Consider the man who stands before such a woman. His ego, so accustomed to being the center of gravity, begins to falter. He is used to women who chase, who seek his approval, who mirror back his sense of control. But this woman, this goddess, does not play that game. Her energy is a quiet storm, a blend of stoic resolve and feminine mystique. She has walked through the fire of her own shadow work, faced the parts of herself she once feared, and emerged whole. She is not flawless, but she is unafraid of her flaws. This self-acceptance is what makes her magnetic, what draws him in even as it unsettles him. He feels the pull of her presence, the weight of her silence, and it stirs something ancient within him, a longing not just for her but for the wholeness she represents. This longing, however, is a double-edged sword. Jung's concept of projection teaches us that what we see in another is often a reflection of our own unconscious desires. When a man becomes obsessed with a woman who embodies her own goddess, he is not merely chasing her. He is chasing the parts of himself he has yet to claim. Her detachment, her refusal to shrink for his comfort, forces him to confront his own insecurities. He may mistake this for love, for passion, but it is often something deeper, a confrontation with his shadow, the unacknowledged fears and wounds that lie buried beneath his ego's bravado. Her silence becomes a canvas onto which he projects his desires, his fears, his need to feel whole. And yet, the more he reaches for her, the more he realizes she is not his to possess. She is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be honored. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, reminds us that there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. The woman who has embraced this truth has freed herself from the chains of external validation. She does not need a man to complete her, to define her worth, or to anchor her existence. This is the essence of her spiritual femininity, a radiant self-sufficiency that does not exclude love but does not depend on it. She loves from a place of overflow, not lack. And this is what makes her dangerous, not in a way that harms, but in a way that transforms. Her presence challenges the man to rise, to face his own ego, to question the stories he has told himself about what it means to be a man. This dynamic is not about power over another, but power within. The woman who becomes her own goddess does not seek to dominate, she seeks to exist. Yet her existence alone is enough to unsettle the masculine psyche. Her silence is not passive, it is a declaration of sovereignty. Her detachment is not cold, it is a refusal to trade her truth for his comfort. And in this refusal lies her allure. She becomes the embodiment of Jung's anima, not as a projection of his fantasy, but as a living archetype of feminine power. He may chase her, driven by the ego's need to conquer, but what he truly seeks is not her submission, but her reflection. the mirror that shows him who he could become if he dared to do the work. This is the silent obsession, the unspoken tension that pulses between them. It is not a game of seduction, but a journey of transformation. For her, it is the path of individuation, the integration of her light and shadow into a whole, radiant self. For him, it is the call to face his own darkness, to let go of the ego's need for control and to step into a deeper truth. And in this dance, both are changed, if they choose to answer the call. The silent obsession that brews in a man's ego when faced with a woman who has become her own goddess is not merely a fleeting spark. It is a fire that burns through the layers of his psyche, exposing the raw, unpolished edges of his soul. Her presence, radiant with the quiet power of spiritual femininity, acts like a catalyst, stirring the depths of his unconscious where Jung's archetypes dwell. The anima, that feminine essence within him, begins to whisper truths he has long avoided. Her detachment, her refusal to orbit his ego, is not a rejection but a challenge, a call to confront the illusions he has built around his identity. She is no longer a mirror for his desires but a beacon of her own truth, and this shift unsettles the very foundation of his being. He is drawn to her not because she fulfills his fantasies, but because she defies them, embodying a mystery that his ego both craves and fears. This woman who has walked the path of individuation carries a presence that is both serene and untamed. She has her shadow, the parts of herself she once hid, regret, shame, the hunger for approval, and integrated them into a whole, radiant self. Her silence is not emptiness. It is the fullness of a soul that no longer needs to shout to be heard. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." She has chosen not to waste her time chasing what does not serve her. This choice, this radical act of self-ownership, is what makes her a goddess, not in the ethereal sense of myth, but in the grounded reality of a woman who knows her worth. Her energy is a quiet rebellion against the world's demand that she shrink, that she soften her edges to make others comfortable. And it is this rebellion that ignites the man's obsession, for it forces him to question the control he thought he had. In her presence, his ego begins to fracture. He is accustomed to women who seek his validation, who adjust their light to fit his shadow. But this woman does not bend. Her gaze, steady and unflinching, pierces through the mask he wears. She sees the man beneath, the one who hides his fears behind bravado, who buries his wounds under the weight of control. And yet she does not try to fix him, does not offer herself as a salve for his pain. This is her power, the ability to stand in her truth without needing to save or be saved. It is a power that both attracts and terrifies him, for it demands that he face his own fragility. Jung's concept of the shadow looms large here, the unacknowledged parts of himself that he projects onto her, mistaking his longing for love, his obsession for connection. Her silence becomes a space where his own truths echo, and he cannot escape the sound. You watching this might feel the weight of this dynamic in your own life. Have you ever noticed how your refusal to chase, to dim your light, shifts the energy of those around you? When you step into your own power, when you choose yourself over the need to be chosen, you become a force that disrupts the status quo. This is not about manipulation or games. It is about truth. Your spiritual femininity, your quiet strength, is a mirror that reflects back to others what they most need to see. For a man, this reflection can be intoxicating and unbearable in equal measure. He may chase you, not because he loves you, but because he is chasing the version of himself he sees in your light, a version he has not yet dared to become. This is where the danger lies, not in harm but in transformation. The woman who embodies her goddess energy does not merely attract, she awakens. She stirs the man's soul, forcing him to confront the gap between who he is and who he could be. Her detachment is not a withdrawal from love but a reclamation of her own sovereignty. She loves from a place of abundance, not need, and this shift changes everything. He may try to possess her, to pull her back into his orbit, but she is no longer a satellite. She is a star, burning brightly in her own constellation, and he must decide whether to rise to meet her or remain tethered to his ego's gravity. The silent obsession is not just his, it is hers too in a different form. It is her obsession with her own becoming, her commitment to her own truth. And in this commitment she becomes untouchable, not because she is distant, but because she is whole. The dance continues, but the steps are hers to choose. The woman who has become her own goddess moves through the world like a quiet tide, her presence both soothing and unsettling, a force that reshapes the shores of those who encounter her. Her spiritual femininity, forged in the crucible of shadow work and self-acceptance, is not a performance but a state of being. She has shed the need to be seen, to be validated by the gaze of others. And in doing so, she has become a beacon of what Jung called individuation, the journey toward wholeness. This wholeness is her power, a radiant self-sufficiency that does not exclude connection but demands it be authentic. For the man caught in the orbit of her light, this authenticity is both a gift and a challenge. His ego, so accustomed to dictating the terms of desire, finds itself at a crossroads, to cling to control or to surrender to the possibility of transformation. Jung's teachings on the anima remind us that the feminine within a man is not merely a projection but a portal to his deeper self. When a woman embodies her goddess energy, she becomes a living embodiment of this archetype, not as his savior or his muse, but as a mirror reflecting his unclaimed potential. Her silence, her refusal to chase or conform, is a provocation, not of conflict but of truth. It forces him to confront the illusions he has built around his identity, the belief that his worth lies in his ability to dominate, to possess, to be the center of her world. Her detachment is not a rejection but a revelation, exposing the fragility of his ego and the depth of his unhealed wound. NDS. He may feel drawn to her, obsessed even, but what he truly seeks is not her submission but the courage to face his own shadow. This dynamic is a dance of opposites, a tension between the masculine drive for control and the feminine power of surrender, not to him, but to her own truth. Stoic philosophy, as articulated by Marcus Aurelius, speaks to this surrender. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. The woman who has embraced her goddess energy lives this principle. She accepts her fate, not as a passive victim, but as a creator of her own destiny. She loves, but not from a place of lack or desperation. Her love is a river, flowing freely but never forcing its path. This freedom is what makes her magnetic, what draws the man into her orbit even as it challenges him to let go of his need to control. You, standing in your own power, may recognize this energy within yourself. Have you ever felt the shift in a man's gaze when you stopped seeking his approval, when you chose to honor your own worth? It is not about becoming untouchable in a cold, distant way, but about becoming so rooted in your own truth that no one can shake you. This is the essence of spiritual femininity, a strength that does not shout but whispers, a presence that does not demand but commands. When you embody this, you become a mirror for others, reflecting back their own potential and their own fears. For a man, this reflection can be both a siren's call and a warning. He may chase you, driven by the ego's need to conquer, but what he truly seeks is the wholeness he sees in you, a wholeness he must find within himself. This is the silent obsession, the unspoken pull that binds yet separates. It is not a game of power but a journey of awakening. Her detachment is not a wall but a bridge, inviting him to cross into his own truth if he dares. Yet many men falter here, caught in the trap of their own projections. They mistake their longing for possession, their attraction for ownership. Her goddess energy, however, cannot be owned. It is a flame that burns for itself, and in its light he must choose to remain in the shadow of his ego or to step into the work of his own becoming. For the woman, this journey is not about him, it is about her. Her obsession is not with his response but with her own evolution. She has faced her regrets, her fears, her need for external love and chosen to love herself first. This choice is her rebellion, her liberation, her divinity. She is not here to save him but to show him what is possible. And in this showing, she transforms not only herself but the world around her. The dance continues, but she moves to her own rhythm, a goddess in her own right, untethered and free. The woman who has become her own goddess stands as a living paradox, her presence a quiet upheaval in the masculine psyche. Her spiritual femininity, rooted in the depths of Jung's individuation, radiates a power that is neither aggressive nor submissive but profoundly self-contained. She has traversed the landscape of her own soul, faced the shadows of doubt and yearning, and emerged with a clarity that does not waver. This clarity is her crown, worn not for display but as a testament to her inner work. For the man who encounters her, this crown is both a beacon and a challenge, illuminating the chasm between his ego's illusions and the truth of his unclaimed self. Her silence, her refusal to bend to his desires, is not a weapon but a mirror, reflecting back the parts of him he has yet to confront. And it is this reflection that fuels his silent obsession, a longing that is less about her and more about the wholeness he glimpses in her light. Jung's concept of the shadow looms large in this dynamic, for what the man feels is not merely attraction but a confrontation with his own unconscious. The goddess in her is not his to possess. She is a force that exists beyond his control, a reminder of the anima within him that he has yet to integrate. Her detachment, her refusal to chase or conform, stirs a restlessness in him, a sense that something vital is slipping through his fingers. Yet, what he seeks to grasp is not her but the potential she embodies, the courage to face his own vulnerabilities, to dismantle the ego's fortress and step into the uncertainty of his own becoming. Her power lies in her ability to exist without needing him, and this independence is both her allure and her danger. It forces him to question the stories he has told himself about love, about power, about what it means to be a man. Epictetus, the Stoic sage, taught that freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling the desire. The woman who has become her own goddess has mastered this control, not by suppressing her desires but by aligning them with her truth. She does not need a man's validation to feel whole, nor does she seek to fill a void with his presence. Her love, when offered, is a gift, not a plea. This is the essence of her spiritual femininity, a strength that flows from within, a radiance that does not dim for the sake of others. To the man, this radiance is intoxicating, for it promises a connection that is authentic, not transactional. Yet it also demands that he rise to meet her, that he let go of the ego's need to dominate and instead embrace the vulnerability of true intimacy. You standing in this energy may feel its weight in your own life. Have you ever noticed how your choice to honor your own path shifts the air around you? When you stop seeking approval, when you let go of the need to be chosen, you become a force that cannot be ignored. This is not about pushing others away, but about pulling yourself closer to your own truth. Your silence, your self-possession, becomes a mirror for those who encounter you, reflecting back their own potential and their own fears. For a man, this mirror can be both a call to awakening and a source of discomfort. He may chase you, driven by the ego's need to conquer the mystery you represent, but what he truly seeks is the courage to face himself. This is the alchemy of attraction, where desire and detachment dance in a delicate balance. The woman who embodies her goddess energy does not seek to control the outcome. She simply is. Her presence is a catalyst stirring transformation in those who dare to meet her gaze. For the man, the silent obsession is a journey inward, a confrontation with the parts of himself he has long avoided. He may resist, clinging to the familiar comfort of his ego, but her light will not let him hide. She is not here to save him, nor to be saved. She is here to be, and in her being, she invites him to become. This is the final act of the dance, where the woman's journey culminates in a quiet triumph. She has chosen herself, not out of selfishness, but out of reverence for her own soul. Her worth is not tied to his gaze, his approval, or his love. She is whole, radiant, and free. And in this freedom, she offers a truth that echoes through the ages. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.